3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Days of the Wolf, my sort of daily vblog. We're coming at you live somewhere from a secret location in the Northwest. It is Tuesday, the 4th, in September 2018. Anyway, got some good news. Working really diligently on some interesting aspects of the blockchain, Ethereum, specifically Google. They have, I got this from Ivan on Tech, and I watch him religiously, pretty much unfailingly. Ivan on Tech is like probably one of the better teachers. He teaches things from a very programmatic perspective, which I like. I mean, he goes into the GitHub, will kind of demonstrate the code and stuff like that. A lot of people that teach this stuff don't really get into that level of granularity, and I swear, between David Milan and Ivan, I have an insight on this that is just, really streamlined. It helped me connect a lot of the dots and streamline the code and figure out, how these mechanisms actually work. And that's always exciting. Anyway, to the news, I've been posting a few things. The main story of the day is the Know Your Customer conundrum. A lot of exchanges now are requiring you to fill out Know Your Customer information, and pretty much I go into it from a perspective of it's kind of bad to tag your personal information to your financial existence. First off, because, well, I mean, there's always liability, to that, and you don't want. We're at the cutting edge. We're at the fork in the road, where there's kind of two ways of going. There's still the fiat world, where currency has to be exchanged for utilities, government, toll type, subsidies and stuff like that. That's still that way. On the other side, you have the crypto world. The crypto world, with the advent of being able to have essentially an e-wallet, a node, and essentially an exchange, on your smartphone, an actual exchange that can transfer and collaborate the different tokens, instantaneously. They already have that. It's called Shapeshift, on the Jax wallet. But I'm talking about just the grand scheme of it. All the coins, make the wallet compatible for all available coins, and have just this massive exchange. Probably done on side chains to make everything flow a little bit more efficiently, but nevertheless, these are exciting times that we are living in. And the Know Your Customer issue is, in my opinion, it's a bad idea. And it's a bad idea because the reality is just a little bit more problematic, than just pairing a hot wallet to your personal identity. It puts your personal identity into a third-party site. In this case, it could be any exchange that requires it, and at that point, now you have an additional vector of attack from a fourth party, whoever hacks the site. That's a problem right there. It's better to put like kind of an anonymous address out there, or a series of wallets that are interchanging tokens, to not, if you want to obfuscate your pattern of usage. I mean, that's one way of doing it and stuff. But the reality of it is that the ledger is going to be traceable at some point. Chainalysis is having its hand at it. Google is totally like dominating the fucking market with its Ethereum analytics. Jeez, I just found out about that today, this morning. Actually, it was the Ivan on Tech, and he kind of just lit it up, and it was like everything is really nice and simple to use. I mean, you can actually do serious queries. You don't need any third-party machines or anything. Just do the query in the box, and it could modify. You can modify it any way you want. If you're familiar with SQL, it's kind of like, it's exactly that. It's essentially that. But it does real-time analytics. It's beautiful. I'll put the mark on it. But I mean, the those systems are already building out a mechanism to index and find particular data points that you can in turn plug into your learning algorithms. And that's kind of that's the key right there. I mean, the more granular approach you have to these data points where you can prime your machine learning algorithms, the better off you are. I mean, in keeping a hedge and stuff. So the biggest problem that I have with it is the Experian credit repository hack. And the issue is that your financial data and your financial flows are tied to your personal identity, because they want to find out if you're credit worthy and stuff like that. But because of that hack, and because it was a centralized source of all that information in a nice pre-row, by the way, name, address, social security number, and all the immutable data points. And the immutable data points is like your work history, can't change where you work, your residence history, can't change where you lived, mother's maiden names, well, they're kind of born with, I guess you could change it, or but it's still kind of there in some record. Social security numbers, which they're not giving anybody new social security numbers to kind of really correct the situation. Everybody is resolved to having to freeze their credit. That's great, and that's a partial solution. But the rest of the solution is that data that was hacked is still a profile of you. The bad guys, or whoever has the data, or whatever, has a profile of you. So that's only going to help in the fact that this information's out there. And it was because your personal information was tied to your financial dealings. So a better solution would be to have your financial dealings tied to a wallet that your identity. It could be anonymous if you want, and kind of operate from there. That way you can kind of trace that wallet and do all the analytics on that wallet and go, hey man, this guy does smart investments or whatever. I mean, depending on how you're applying yourself to the ecosystem of the blockchain and of the cryptocurrency therein. So that's one way of doing it, and it doesn't necessarily tie a personal identity. It's not like they can do a hack on you. They know your social security number, mother's maiden name, they know your date of birth, their social security number, and all those items of data where they can hack you personally, or even convince you, that you're like subject to an IRS, type audit and stuff like that, and you have to pay so much, and because they have all that immutable data on you, they have your work history, they have all these things. I mean, assuming they have them, it's probably on the black market somewhere. Now look what you're dealing with. So, blockchain is a solution for that, I think, particularly in making these exchanges. Now, the current exchanges on the line are pretty much, I mean, the main exchanges are Coinbase. Everybody knows that, but they do require it. I don't know of any reputable, exchanges that are not like sanctioned in some way, but it's kind of difficult because the program pretty much works the same way across the line. A database is a database is a database, function is a function is a function. An exchange basically has items to do. The more bells and whistles you got on it, the more layers of complication you have on it, it's going to be more and more complex. You know, you don't necessarily need an exchange in order to exchange. You can just exchange with wallets, assuming the wallet, you know, encompasses compatibility on both ends. So the easiest way is Coinbase, and yes, they do have KYC, but it's just like driver's license or something like that. Just be careful of, you know, what you're exchanging on one that's kind of sanctioned. You know, if you're going to do anything stupid, don't do it. You know, I mean, I'm into it to understand the UI, to understand the back end, to, you know, just optimize an exchange that can be truly decentralized, you know, and get the UI set up, the learning algorithm set up, and ultimately, you know, that plate of information that's going to give you the best strategies of what to do. Anyway, it's a pretty long article. I mean, I made it like 800 words, and I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's really thought-provoking, you know, and it will give you an idea of kind of how to approach blockchain and cryptocurrency, because ultimately you want to approach this in the best way possible. You know, the distributed autonomous organizations, I think, are the end game. Artificial intelligence, which manages that, is the utopia of it all, because it could just manage it independent of any governments, you know, because it's on the network, you know, and if it's thinking of how it's navigating the network or whatever, it's just calculating. They're just functions, Lambda functions, you know, AWS. Everybody's shifting toward the cloud, and that's essentially what they're shifting to, you know, autonomous organizations that just make money. That's all they do, and they learn where different markets are and where niches are, and that's exactly what I'm working on as far as seeing into the data points, learning about those data points, building those neural networks, and then asking the appropriate Oracle type questions or queries to figure out an optimized strategy of whatever you do. Our goal is to put it more into the realm of cryptocurrency and the crest and the troughs of the market. You know, when to short, when to buy, based on that analysis. Google makes it ridiculously easy, so it's like that's probably the main tools that we'll be utilizing. But anyway, that's just my thoughts for the day. I know I got into rambling and stuff, but it's really cool stuff. And if you like my vBlog and you want to give me kind of a thumbs up, I'd really appreciate it. Tell me what you think, and this is D Wolf signing off. Peace.